It's a bad moon, dreamers. Can you feel it? From my perch at Nightwave, I listen at the windows of the wealthy and well-to-do. Ever heard of Saturn 6? News to me, too. Turns out the Grenier have a max pin floating some 6 leagues deep in the gas. No one knew about it, 'cause no one ever busted out. Until now, right? Some Grenier meathead they started calling the Wolf, on account of him taking up howling at night. Decrypts say he was a model prisoner, doing the time, fabbing bombs with the rest of his Khan brothers. Apple of the warden's eye, even. But something cracked, and now he's out there on the loose. The so-called Wolf of Saturn 6.
Okay, so I've figured out the system and how it works. I mistakenly thought that the nightmare missions had something to do with how you gain standing, but instead what it is you have all these challenges that are daily and weekly that you have to perform. And so this one was really simple. Deploy a glyph while in a mission. Okay, cool. Complete 3 of 3 waves of Sanctuary Onslaught. Scan 25 objects or enemies. Kill or capture an Eidolon Hydralisk. And so everything that I've done so far has accumulated enough standing to earn me the first reward tier. And it is super underwhelming. So initially when I first encountered the Wolf of Saturn update, I was pretty damn harsh on it. Now my stance remains the same about players who are veterans of this game and players who have been playing it for a long time and have been feeling the consequences of a content drought. Again, I maintain the stance that if you're a new player, this is probably really good for you, but I didn't stress how good it was exactly. You see, alerts have been the way for us veterans to predominantly acquire helmets, aura mods, resources, you name it. And while it was an intricate and unique system, it was also flawed. Flawed in the fact that it only provided a limited amount of time for users to acquire what they needed. Meaning that if you were at work and you were out and about with your real life, you really couldn't capitalize on hopping on a computer and getting what you needed, so you'd miss it. I can't tell you how many times my closest friends wanted me to sign in to their account while they were out in the world and go get the alert that they needed. So with this update, it does away with that dilemma. It does away with the dilemma of timed resources, and so it's actually perfect for new players. And that's not something that I mentioned when I was so harsh and criticized this, and that's also kind of why I didn't release that version of the video. I opted to record this one instead. So I now understand why the update came through. It wasn't geared towards veteran players on purpose, because veteran players already have what we would be using the system for. It makes sense. As you can see, this newer character is on the side of my screen, speaking, just giving you random bits of dialogue. I don't really have anything to say about it because again, as a veteran, it's not really something I'm too interested in. My only gripe with it is the fact that anything that I'm going to care about is not until, you know, tier 20. And that's I don't agree with that. I think that you should probably put some goodies at the bottom couple of tiers. Like in tier 3, you should get something really, really good. And then just spread out the really, really good, interesting things, the newer things, along the progression. That way, players don't feel as though they're having to grind just to get to something that's worth it. I mean, personally, if you're playing the challenges, which this is another cool thing, they've basically integrated the challenges at the beginning of the mission with the alerts, which is cool. So if you're playing through these challenges naturally and you're feeling the need to complete them, which they're not that hard, so that's an upside, then you're going to naturally progress towards everything anyway. And so eventually you will make it there. And I underestimated the amount of time that it would take to get to tier 20. I figured it would be a really long grind, but I'm already halfway to tier 3, and I've only been playing for about 2.5 hours worth of time. So and that was also doing other things, being very busy with other things. So it wasn't like I was pushing towards the challenges as much as what I could have been. So all things considered, you know, it's got a relatively balanced progression. It's just not very flashy and new for veteran players. It's not gonna put an end to the content drought, is what I'm trying to say. I mean, it's not gonna be the go-to update where you're like, oh, I feel like playing this game again. If you've already been bored of this game for a while, for the past couple weeks, then chances are you're gonna remain bored still. And if completing challenges is your thing, as you've seen that I've just now got another notification stating that I've gotten one step closer towards a challenge completed, then maybe it will reinvigorate your whole experience. But for me personally, as a veteran, it doesn't. I don't feel any more inclined to log on each day and play the game. How do you make it? How do you flip the experience on its head and how do you incentivize older players still playing the game again? I mean, if I could suggest anything, I would probably take the concept of Railjack with the new ships that are being introduced and make it so veteran players and new players alike could do unique missions where they hover through space and they park their ship next to a meteorite, and one player drives, and maybe another player uses the cranes from the ship to drill and mine from this meteorite, while the other two players use the turrets to actively defend the ship as it drills resources from the meteorite. And it could be anything. It could be tellurium, it could be ruby-doo, it could be cryotic, it could be anything. It just makes resource hunting a little bit more meaningful, and it doesn't have anything to do with combat. I mean, roughly, you're still wanting to defend your ship, but I mean, that makes the experience a lot more meaningful. Is like, instead of going out to a specific planet because it has a more abundancy of this mining, I mean, suppose you could scan space, right? You could just hover over your navigation center and you could scan space and find an area where there is abundancy of the resource that you're looking for. You could warp speed your ass. You could just perform a slip space jump straight to that area with you and your crew, and then farm those resources like directly. I mean, it's so much more engaging. I'm just trying to think along the lines of like Star Citizen. Like, what would I do if I were a Star Citizen dev? Yeah, I'd probably provide you with a lot more to do than just combat. That's just me. You may see it very differently. So, whereas I was totally against this update initially, I kind of understand it now. As I said earlier, it's blending the challenges at the beginning of the missions with alerts, so that's pretty cool. I can't say anything else about it that I hadn't already covered in previous versions, but you know, through the magic of video editing, I'll be putting the previous versions of my recording in this video. So if you like this video and you learn something from it, always helps if you smash that like button, rate, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure you're hitting that bell icon so you can get updated with everything that I upload. I've got a special video coming out very soon. I know I've been saying that for a while, but I'm working really hard on it. Been working hard on it for a couple of months now, so hope you tune into that, and until next time, this has been Vance, signing out. Peace.